5 days after the Pulwama attack that left 40 CRPF personnel dead, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan finally broke his silence. He did not condemn the attack or condole the loss of lives. He said Pakistan cannot be used as a whipping boy and demanded actionable evidence. Imran said he was ready to help the investigations if there was proof and is willing to talk about terrorism as well. He warned India that any provocation will be met with retaliation. Back home, the Lieutenant General Kamaljeet Singh Dhillon, who heads the Srinagar-based 15 Corps, said anyone who picks up the gun will be eliminated, also saying that the Jaish-e-Mohammed leadership in the valley has been eliminated. Before we begin our debate today, let's listen in to Imran Khan, the Pakistani Prime Minister.
पहले तो आपने पाकिस्तान पे इल्जाम लगा दिया, ना कोई एविडेंस, ना कोई सोचा कि इसके अंदर पाकिस्तान का क्या फायदा है। अगर आपके पास कोई एक्शनेबल इंटेलिजेंस है कि पाकिस्तान इन्वॉल्व है, वो हमें दे, मैं आपको गारंटी करता हूं कि हम एक्शन लेंगे। एक इंट्रोस्पेक्शन आनी चाहिए कि क्या वजह है कश्मीर के नौजवान उस इंतहा पे पहुंच चुके हैं जो वो मौत का उनका खौफ ही उतर गया। जब भी हिंदुस्तान से हम डायलॉग की बात करते हैं, हिंदुस्तान की प्री कंडीशन होती है कि पहले दहशतगर्दी की बात की जाए। मैं आपको ये कहता हूं कि हम दहशतगर्दी की भी बात करने के लिए तैयार हैं। दहशतगर्दी एक सारे खित्ते का इशू है और हम बिल्कुल तैयार हैं, क्योंकि हम चाहते हैं कि इस खित्ते में दहशतगर्दी खत्म हो। अगर आप ये समझते हैं कि आप पाकिस्तान के ऊपर कुछ किसी किस्म का हमला करेंगे, पाकिस्तान रिटेलिएट करने का सोचेगा नहीं, पाकिस्तान रिटेलिएट करेगा। हम सब जानते हैं कि जंग शुरू करना आसान है, शुरू करना तो जंग इंसान के हाथ में होती है, लेकिन जंग खत्म करना इंसान के हाथ में नहीं होती। ये मसला जो आखिर में हल होगा, जिस तरह अफगानिस्तान में, ये भी डायलॉग और बातचीत से हल होगा।
Joining us now to take this forward is former Indian ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Talmiz Ahmad, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former GOC 15 Corps, and also a strategic affairs analyst, senior journalist and political analyst Wail Awad, someone who has been a war correspondent, someone who's covered Kashmir, Afghanistan and the Gulf very closely. We're also joined by former Secretary External Affairs Vivek Karju. Thank you very much for joining us. Talmiz Ahmad, I'd like to begin with you. When you hear Imran Khan talking today, when he says that we want actionable evidence from India, we are ready to talk about terrorism with India as well. Do you see serious intent, or is this a Pakistani Prime Minister playing to an international audience?
This is one of the most absurd remarks that I have heard. Actually, the head of Jaish-e-Mohammed has already accepted responsibility for his action. Jaish-e-Mohammed was created by the Pakistani armed forces. It has been functioning under their supervision and guidance. It has been indoctrinated by them. It has been functioning under their direct supervision. For him to now make this absurd remark makes no sense to me whatsoever. What kind of actionable evidence does he want when there is already a confession from somebody within his jurisdiction? Let him take action immediately, arrest these people who have already confessed to the crime.
That's right. He has to take action, and this is not the first time. As the MEA has also said, there have been a number of occasions, including 2611, also Pathan Court, where we shared evidence and dossiers with the Pakistani government. In fact, in Pathan Court, we allowed a Pakistani team to even come and investigate the scene of crime. I'd like to get in Vivek Karju at this point. Vivek Karju, do you see any message of conciliation here, where Imran Khan says that we are willing to talk about terrorism, we are willing to discuss this because this is a scourge? Naya Pakistan will not allow this. Do you think he's serious about a conversation with India?
No, he is not. I think this message was a warning. All these other aspects of the message can be ignored because they are absolutely absurd. What he was really saying is that if India takes military action, uses the armed forces, the Pakistanis will respond. And Imran Khan was only the mouthpiece of the Pakistan army. So this is the message that he is giving us. Now, how will Prime Minister Narendra Modi react is to be seen. I, for one, believe that Pakistani terrorism against India, which has gone on for nearly 3 decades, is a strategic challenge. It has to be accepted as such, not something that India can absorb and handle diplomatically and politically manage things. And now all the resources of our country have to be used in making a plan which will have to be pursued relentlessly to handle it. As part of that,
and probably a long-term plan.
Have part of the plan, there will have to be kinetic action too. Pardon?
Right, absolutely. And I want to get in General Atta Hasnain at this point. General Hasnain, there has been demand for action, for credible, for a prompt and hard-hitting response to the Pulwama attacks. But today's message, if you were there in Kashmir right now, if you were serving there, sir, do you feel that the Pakistani Prime Minister's statement, the warning that he may have given us, even though this may not rattle us, probably indicates that the surprise element has been lost and any attack now would not be well timed?
See, it's quite clear the moment an action is taken by any Pakistani tanzeem backed by the ISI against an Indian facility, an Indian target, automatically it is realized on the other side that there will be a response, some kind of a response. There has not been a history of response. I agree, 26/11 on Uri, we had the surgical strikes. We've not each time had a major response as such. So the expectation by any military mind will always be that there is going to be some kind of a retaliation, some kind of a response. So the element of surprise is actually already lost. That happened even with Uri, where after 10 days we went in and they were prepared. We did not go against any military facility of Pakistan. Surgically, we only struck the terrorist camps and the terrorist facilities at that time and took them by surprise, perhaps to some extent. So I don't think surprise has a major role to play in the India-Pakistan equation. You saw after 2001 the attack on Parliament. At that time, the Pakistan army had already started mobilizing by the time the Indian army mobilized and reached its concentration areas. So this has to be, whatever action has to be taken by India has to be done smartly. The old conventional capability, imposition of your conventional capability on Pakistan, etc. is yes.
Do you think there is also a worry of escalation? This is election season. Any kind of intervention by the military can go either way. Do you think we'll have to be very careful in the days to come? While there is a lot of rhetoric going on in the political circles, in the media as well, this muscle flexing can be damaging as well?
See, if the leadership, any leadership in a situation such as this, will do a thing called risk management. It will have to do a full risk analysis. It will have to look at its capability and what are its objectives that it wants to achieve. And based upon that, it will make its plans. It will also look at its resources. It will look at the impact. It will look at the international environment and what is likely to happen in the very first few days after the launch of whatever plan is being attempted to be launched. So all this has to be taken into consideration. It's not that someone is just going to get up, get the army mobilized and start getting into Pakistan. It's not like that. This is all calibrated and thought out very carefully. And your question is excellent as far as the Indian election scenario is concerned, because there is a psychological pressure. There is a psychological pressure on the government. We are 8 weeks away perhaps from polling times. And obviously, so far, the political consensus has held. But I don't anticipate that a political consensus can continue holding for anything longer than a week more. You will find a tremendous amount of criticism coming against the government. And that's the time when the government is going to be under pressure.
All right, so the government is going to come under pressure, and I think they're already under pressure. I'd like to get in Dr. Wael Awad at this point. Mr. Awad, what is the kind of support that we're getting? Yes, there were messages of condolences, sympathetic messages from all across the world, from more than 45 countries. The White House had put out a very strong statement, and we can just break on our channel that France will move a proposal in a couple of days at the UN to put JEM chief Masood Azhar on the global terror list. But France, US, UK have backed us earlier as well. The problem has been with China. Where do you think international support for any campaign against Pakistan, either military or diplomatic, is going? Dr. Bailawad.
Well, I think first of all, India's position for the last 2 decades have been very clear to the rest of the world, and there is a great sympathy with the Indian position, especially in cross-border terrorism, where India had made its case to the international community and been a victim of terrorism throughout. But I would like to add one point here. It's not a question that when we get the international support for any military action, should we go for a war? What we are here is fighting terrorism, and we have to stop the international community from being selective in fighting terrorism. There should be comprehensive fight against terrorism because it has no border and it has no country and no religion. So therefore, to speak of fighting terrorism alone on your own, it does not give the result to be achieved internationally. So I think the international community has to address what is terrorism, and those terrorists should be stopped. What stopped me today from when I was listening to Mr. Imran Khan, that he did not even have the remorse of saying that he was sorry for the death of the Indian soldier. Secondly, which was more important to me, that he did not take any action, no initiative from the Pakistani side to look into the matter of Jaish Muhammad involvement. He is already under house arrest, the Masood Azhar. Then why you are not taking any action to find out if these groups are involved? Suppose India give you the proofs, then what next you want? Why there was a similar attack in Iran. Iran have given enough evidence to the Pakistani where they are acting upon. So I think you have enough evidence to act upon, be a responsible state like India, and you don't need to go for a war. You need to find a solution and isolate and address the issue of terrorism.
All right, that's a very important point. We need to address the issue of terrorism, expose Pakistan on the issue of terror. And you importantly also pointed out that Imran Khan did not condole the loss of lives, which is a very humane and basic emotional gesture. And I'd like to get in the former Indian ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Talmiz Ahmad, on that. Mr. Ahmad, we will have MBS in India. He'll be here for a day-long conversation. Can India use its leverage with Saudi Arabia to put pressure on Pakistan on the issue of terror? If we go by the joint statement signed by Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, which talks about the brotherly relations between them, also appreciates Pakistan's offer of dialogue with India, it doesn't seem like.
I don't think you should, attach too much importance to the diplomatic rhetoric that is always contained in joint statements. These are statements of courtesy and of mutual regard. But the substance has to be looked at. I think the most important aspect to be noted is that the basis for the Indo-Saudi strategic partnership is the fact that we understand that we have to work together in regard to counter-terrorism, and that terrorism emanates from Pakistan and it is state-sponsored. This became very clear to all the Gulf leaders after the attack upon Mumbai in November 2008 and constituted the basis of our strategic partnership. I now feel that we must move forward to another aspect. We must now move forward and start looking at taking this matter forward. We should work together with regard to we should work with the Saudis with regard to regional security. And I think that conveying to the Saudi leadership that there is a genuine concern with regard to extremism and violence emanating from official sources, that is something we should work together with them. And that is a danger to the entire region, not just for India. I think the Saudis will understand this, they will appreciate it, because they are also targeted. And also we must remember that these extremist elements in Pakistan have very strong links with both Al-Qaeda as well as some sections have with the Islamic State. So this is a transnational scourge. So I think this is something that we can go along with. I think the Saudis will be sympathetic to our position. They have to work with the Pakistani armed forces, not with the Pakistani civilian government.
They have to work and put pressure on the armed forces. I think that's a very important distinction you've made, because as Mr. Kajru also pointed out, that he is only representing the army over here. And Mr. Kajru, to get you in, how do you think the Prime Minister would be approaching the Saudi Crown Prince on the issue of terrorism? What's going to be the tone and tenor of the conversation? And if you were a diplomat in the MEA today, what would be the best joint statement that one could expect?
Look, I agree with the larger picture that my colleague Talmiz has drawn, but in my experience, joint statements are very carefully worded. They reflect national positions, and there is some regard given to interlocutors, but not at the cost of your own sovereign positions. So therefore, the Saudis should have been aware that all this bonhomie and especially the good words that there are for Imran Khan's Kartarpur Sahib initiative, etc., would, in the present situation after the Pulwama attack, would not be appreciated by the Indian public, and that is something that we can't ignore and we should not ignore. We also have to be mindful of the fact that there is a deep and abiding interest of Saudi Arabia in Pakistan. And if I, for one, thought that Mohammed bin Salman was being treated in Pakistan obsequiously, he was being greeted as if he was, it reminded me of how during British India, a British Prince of Wales would be greeted in India, to something like that. But let's keep that apart. That is between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. As far as the question of terrorism is concerned, I think we should press the Saudis to show concern for our interests and our concerns in the joint statement and name these terrorist groups. There should be no reluctance on their part to name Jaish-e-Mohammed, to name Lashkar-e-Toiba, and to call upon all states that support these groups to stop supporting these groups. That is the test that I would apply to Mohammed bin Salman's entourage, which is negotiating the joint statement, because it's their investments, etc., are welcome. And we have economic interests, but we have
we're running out of time,
and the
but
Saudis should
there's
be
a breaking
mindful of
update
those.
which has come, and I'd like to just go to Wail Awad with this. Wail Awad, we are now getting information that the Prime Minister is going to receive the Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. I guess this is a big diplomatic gesture. He reserves this courtesy for a very few international heads of state. What do you think is going to be our approach with the Saudi Crown Prince? I guess the Indian government is going to impress upon him that terror emanating from Pakistan is a serious concern, and the Gulf countries have to be aware of this. They cannot let funding go to Pakistan, and this funding cannot be diverted towards terror groups which attack India.
Well, I think Saudi Arabia have a great influence in all the terrorist groups based in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Syria, Iraq, or Yemen, because the Saudi money have been flooding into these places for many years. You remember the jihadi culture in Afghanistan was created by the ISI, the Saudi intelligence, and the CIA. So we are not forgetting that Al-Qaeda was created in Afghanistan with the help of these three intelligence. I think the Saudis will give you a very strong sympathizing messages when the Crown Prince comes here, because he is also at the situation where he is looking for a new partner for the business in India and the Vision 2030 that he is promoting. Therefore, I think the Saudis understand India's position very well, and they will use their influence to pressurize at least Pakistan not to attack or allow any of the group to attack India, because they have another objective at the moment is to raise the tempo against Iran. So there is a kind of new changes within the Gulf state toward India, and I think India can take the full advantage of this.
And importantly, the Saudi Crown Prince, after going to Pakistan, going back to Saudi Arabia, then coming to India, he'll go to China after that. But we'll see how that goes, how the diplomatic pressure goes, and a lot of it won't be in the joint statement. It will be behind the scenes. But to get in General Atta Hasnain at this point, I'd like to shift focus temporarily as we move towards the end of our debate. You know, Tathagat Roy the governor for Meghalaya, and he probably represents the Indian state. He went on to say on Twitter that don't visit Kashmir, don't go to Amarnath, don't buy Kashmiri articles, boycott Kashmiri items. Don't you think that statements like these are damaging for any diplomatic campaign or your military intervention against terrorists or against Pakistan?
See, you have to understand that the response after 26/11 was comparatively still muted because there was no social media at that time. Today, 2019, 11 years later, social media, smartphones in everyone's hand, and you find influence is tremendous through the social media. And for a responsible person who is heading a state within India to actually identify Kashmir and Kashmiris as your virtual enemy and not looking at Pakistan as your actual adversary is something very strange. Of course, we have had instances of from his Twitter account, we've had instances in the past where he's also spoken some things which have been very sensitive, but this really takes the cake. Because I think to strengthen the hands of the government of India, the central government at this time, everyone should be looking at consensus. We should not be pointing fingers at the Kashmiris. We should be looking at what I call a firm base. If you want your army, your armed forces to take decisive action, the armed forces will require exceptional social cohesion.
I would like to come in here also.
We cannot afford to break that social cohesion. And with statements like this, it will be very awkward.
It will be damaging, it will be awkward, but
may I come in with one sentence on this?
Each to our panelists. Mr. Kajju, come in. Do you feel that we need to keep the discourse low and keep the diplomatic campaign and the military campaign going on?
I think this governor needs to be pulled up for what he has said. The central government must do so immediately. His comments, and especially from a governor, are appalling. I go much further than my good friend, the general, has gone. He's been discreet, I will not. The Kashmiris, whatever be the situation, are Indians and they are our people. And it is unacceptable for a governor to say such things.
Right. That's very important. Vivek Kajju saying on our panel that this governor needs to go and the government should take that action against him. Final comments from Ambassador Talmiz Ahmad.
No, I'm not saying he needs to go. I'm saying he needs to be pulled up. Please, I'm saying he needs to be pulled up. I'm not saying he needs to go, he needs to be pulled up. He needs to be pulled up by the central government. I correct myself there. But Ambassador Talmiz Ahmad, final comments from you on how should our long-term policy be in the days to come?
Yes, I think that we should look at the long term as well. We should work with Saudi Arabia in regard to regional security. Yes, there should be a significant interlocutor as far as Pakistan is concerned. It will be a long haul. We've been suffering extremism from Pakistan for the last 30 years. So it will be a long haul. But I think that the regional scenario, the global scenario has changed. And there is much tolerance and accommodation as far as extremism is concerned. The two interlocutors who would be most effective would be number one, Saudi Arabia, and to a certain extent, the United States as well. So I think that we can use Saudi Arabia as our partner in this regard. Secondly, we should also work with Saudi Arabia in Afghanistan. We have been done so in the past, but we should do that now. The two matters are linked. Because there again, you have extremist elements who are seeking a place in Kabul, and we should be able to ensure that we have a united and democratic Afghanistan.
Okay. And Wael Awad, final comments from you. Do you think any campaign has to begin from home, begin from Kashmir, where we get the ordinary Kashmiri on our side?
Absolutely. I think if you play the South Korean job, you will bring the North Korea back into your fold. That is why I said always you promote the Kashmiri, give them a sense of belonging to the country and address their issues, and I'm sure they will be strong feeling. That's what we used to get the feeling from the valley whenever we visit, that they feel more attached to India than Pakistan.
All right, Talmiz Ahmad, Syed Ata Hasnain, Wael Awad, Vivek Kajju, thank you very much for joining us on this discussion. We'll keep tracking the diplomatic aspects of the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince to India and the tone and tenor of the conversation on terrorism emanating from Pakistan.